Happy New Year everyone and welcome back again for another Brawl Commander feature. This old man needs no introduction and I think most of the viewers already know how this old man operates. Before you go thinking this was already covered multiple times by other streamers, well, let me tell you a story about how I won a competitive brawl with RUSKO with over 40 plus players before he even got banned on that competition. But before that, let's start at the beginning. When he is on the spoilers of Alchemy the Brothers of War, I rated this guy as high as I can on my community and was excited to play him. While everyone is concentrated on playing Crucius and Jarsil back then, I was playing and tinkering with this commander and rightfully believe that he is a tier S right out of the gate. He plays similarly to Golos, that even if you kill him, he has already given you value, and that value comes in the form of additional mana and drawing 7 cards with a clock. For me, that was enough indication of a powerful commander. Now, most of the early build of him consists of Paradox Engine to combo off with clocks, but I was insistent on a full control build, believing Paradox Engine is a dead card without RUSKO, and including Paradox Engine in your list means that you need to cater to Paradox Engine. You need to put a ton of mana rocks and some form of artifact tutor just so Paradox Engine would be great. Now don't get me wrong, I like the combo build, but from day 1 of his arrival, my list has none of that. This is so I could concentrate well on bringing the best out of RUSKO instead, without relying on anything and using cheap interaction to control the board while creating enough storm that my clocks would eventually rotate. In fact, with my list, I won a competitive brawl with over 40 plus players hosted by CGB and sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc. Here's a small video of that competition. I was down to 1 at some point and just scrolled my way back to win.
At this point, a second language will just ruin your day every time.
There's only one in the whole deck.
You can reshuffle it.
Yeah. But I know that. But what I mean is to find it is only one in the whole deck. So you
one
take
in the whole
your
deck.
shot.
So now, counterspell? Yep. You counter that spell. And you know the Interpret Adversary is coming, so at the very least you can also prepare for that. And a Dark Ritual is honestly... Oh, there is the extra turn. Do you extra turn? I think that could be lethal, correct?
It's close. I think at the very least you give it the chance to be lethal. You have so many ways to see more cards.
Yeah, and not only that, it is obviously at least a ton of life.
It will completely flip the tempo. And that's it.
And yeah, what a finals match. That was one of the best finals matches I have ever witnessed in my life.
Mob Boss is going to take it down, the first person ever to get all the way to fall into the lower bracket and then battle all the way back, win the back-to-back matches against the upper bracket champion, and then take down the entire tournament. Does it with RUSKO, a build that other people weren't playing, different from the original build in so many ways, different from what we've seen here before, able to defeat Teferi, also able to beat Adeline, finding ways against both extreme control and against extreme aggro. Congratulations to Mob Boss.
That was one of the most intense matchup I had in my life, and thanks to everyone who contributed to my list from that tournament. After that tournament, Season 6 began immediately at May 2023, and lo and behold, more people are now using RUSKO full control at that point forward. I placed top 6 on Season 6 with the same RUSKO list, losing out to Atraxa, which I was not prepared for because my deck was tuned to combat aggro with the likes of Adeline, Raffine, and the newly included Ragavan among the top of the list that I need to prepare with. Raffine became the champion of that season, and entering Season 7, the majority of the community decided that they need a balance of power. Thus began the first banning of commanders on historic Brawl competition. Number 1 on that list, voted by the majority, was RUSKO Clockmaker, then Teferi at number 2, and lastly Raffine. The banning community stated that the goal of the community is to enrich the meta and removing commanders that they deem to be too warping of the format. RUSKO was the #1 target. He is just an incredibly resilient commander whose game plan often welcomes recasting RUSKO again and again, providing incidental life gain against aggressive decks that would normally punish the card advantage RUSKO aims to achieve, and creating two threats from one card, both luck and RUSKO himself. With that, I'll end my story of how he ended up getting banned on competitive Brawl gameplay. Most of the people already know how RUSKO operates, but I would just like to emphasize on what the build is all about. The build is a full control with the emphasis on cheap and low curve interaction. The lower the curve, the faster we can rotate our clocks. The lower the interaction, the more spells we can cast and eventually refill our hands faster. The build can win with RUSKO alone with his life leech, making sure we can protect him at all times, or at least make it harder for our opponent to react to us due to RUSKO's resiliency. The build has a decent number of exile effects for RUSKO, but our main star will be Time Warp, as it allows us to take another turn, meaning we get a rotation of our clocks again and hopefully get our clocks to pop and find Time Warp again, eventually making an infinite loop of clock rotation for the win. With all of that, I will be doing commentary on my matches and I hope you like the story. Please like and subscribe if you want more content like this. Okay, versus RUSKO. This will be a complicated one. We want all the hand disruption, counter, and hand advantage we can get. We must have a counter on our opening hand with decent number of lands. Usually, the first one to pop their clocks is going to win. This hand is very light on lands, so I think I'm going to mold this. This hand is a little bit slow, but still a better hand than the last one. Opponent drew First Blood, probably going to take Inquisition here. Game plan here is just to take it slow, dig for our answers. We want more counter spells here and probably just more lands. Opponent is thinking the same, so we're just going to fire off our experimental augury here and maybe lay Juari Disruption on our turn. Great brainstorm from the opponent. He's probably going to put 2 dead cards on top of his library, then shuffle with Fable. Now, time to do an impulse and consider here. Just straight up digging for at least hand disruption here or just counter spells. Now we're going to bait a clock here. I think he will counter this. No way on earth he will not. There's the counter. Now we're going to counter back. Now if he counters our counter back with another counter, then at least we have wasted some of his counters. Great, now we still have Wash Away. I hope that would be enough. Not gonna lie, this is going to be bad for us. I hope we can resolve RUSKO. We still have a blink effect for his clock, so hopefully we can win. Okay, nice. This is going to be a battle of waiting game for one to tap out. He's ahead of clock rotation, so we must protect RUSKO here. I'm planning to exile his clock, but protecting RUSKO is going to be our priority. We don't want to recast RUSKO at 6 because that's just going to delay our clock rotation. Remember, whoever gets to pop his clock first is going to win here. I think he has an exile effect here, so I'm going to wait the moment he pumps his clock, then I'm just going to straight up kill his RUSKO or double tap it. As expected, always watch out for this. Make sure you have 2 removals or at least a counter spell so you can punish this. We're going to be vulnerable here, but at least his commander costs 6 now, and that would be at least 2 clock rotation if he pumps his clock instead. We want to crack Mindstone here so we can have more interaction, so we can rotate our clocks. Nice. Duress and Time Warp. What a great brainstorm. And that's GG. We have Cyclonic Rip and Otawara to bounce his clock. Versus Ragavan. Now, mulligan for removals. I can't stress this enough. Now, this is a very good hand. We have Collective Brutality and Ritual of Suit, so we can wipe out most of his creatures. Let's bottom that. We need lands for now. We want to make sure we can resolve RUSKO and protect him at all costs. As expected from the opponent, now we're going to Collective Brutality his Ragavan and discard our Siphon here to look at his hand and pick instant sorcery from his hand. Nice, 2 cards for 2, so we're seeing the power of Collective Brutality here. Now we're going to use our Siphon Insight and hopefully get a land from the opponent. Just straight up kill Ragavan here. We don't want problems with this monkey. Now we're just going to do a land cycle here. So when we cast RUSKO, at least we have Bind to Secrecy to protect him. Should have brainstormed there first, my bad. Now we're just going to protect RUSKO here. We want those incidental life gains. Hopefully our opponent commits more creature to the board so we can Ritual of Suit. That's a late Cavern. This is why removals are more important than counters here versus Ragavan. Their curve is definitely low, so even if we counter one, some will still resolve. So yeah, removals over counter versus this fight. No blocks, we're just going to take the damage. We're not at the red zone yet, so let's wait for the opponent. This is it. We're going to protect RUSKO here. Every time we protect him, we gain a life. So it's imperative that he sticks on the board. Perfect. Now it's time for Ritual of Suit. This is going to be a 3-4-1. Just going to be defensive here. I don't want to give Ragavan an opportunity to dash. And opponent concedes. That's how you deal with Ragavan. Now, this is going to be the same as Ragavan. We want removals and hopefully cast RUSKO as soon as possible so we can have a decent blockers versus her early drop. This is a bad hand, we're gonna mull, and much better. Now we're going to take a look at his hand, and there is a Cavern there. I think this is going to be the correct choice. This rabbit grows so big. Now, that's a dilemma. The game is slipping away from our hands, so I hope we draw a Ritual of Suit so we can at least recover from this. Since we can't react to the opponent's turn, we're just going to cast Snapcaster here and Inquisition of Kozilek him once again. I think I want the dog, but the removal will be key as we want to cast RUSKO the next turn, and RUSKO will be a great blocker for his team. Most likely, he's going to cast his dog next turn. It's going to be a perfect opportunity for him to cast it, which will give us enough time to prepare for Adeline. Not much of a choice here, so we're just going to cast RUSKO and hope for the best. We're just going to trade here. We want to keep his board as low as possible. That way, Adeline won't hit so hard. Nice, we can counter this. We are still in a dire situation though. Block the token and pump our clock because that's all we can do. Now that's a great draw. Collective Brutality is great. This will also fill our graveyard, so we're going to choose modes here. Now is a perfect opportunity for us to dig through time here. He has Paladin class, so we have to do it now. Nothing amazing, but we're going to use Cut Down now. Hands is very bad, so we're just going to pop our clock here. We're going to blink at sorcery speed because yeah, he still has Paladin class. It's annoying. We're going to Cyclonic Rift Adeline here before she can make a token. No sense in using Cyclonic Rift on Paladin class since it's a one to cast. We're We're now in the driver's seat, so I think it's time for Displacer Kitten to play. And opponent concedes upon seeing the cat. This is most likely the same as all other creature decks, but Kinnan will be a high priority target here, so we must kill him or counter him at all costs, otherwise his deck will go off and cheat creatures. This is a bad hand, so we're going to Moon. We're going on second, so it doesn't look great. Still a bad hand. I'm afraid of going any lower than this. I think I'm going to keep and just raise him out. Even for a creature deck, some Kinnan decks will have counter spells, so watch out. We'll just take the Signet here. Opponent kept a 1-lander. Lucky for us. Now we'll just wait for the opponent and just counter his stuff. Let's counter that. We don't want to give him a wide range of mana base. Let's bottom, we need lands. If all goes well, we can cast RUSKO next turn and just counter anything he will play. He passes, so he's definitely representing counter here. Let's just remove his creature so we can limit his option and turn off his Springleaf Drum. Time for RUSKO, no brainer here. We just want our clocks to get going. Let's attack. We want to pressure his life total as early as we can. We don't want to get into the late game scenario where his creatures will be uncounterable and be hard to deal with. We definitely want to close the game as early as we can. Now let's just bounce Kinnan here. We want to delay his plans as much as we can and at least draw some counters from him. Just cruise here and draw 3. Just delve anything, just as long as it's not time warp. We just counter here. This is already a wrap. We're pretty much ahead in everything. Get that resolved so he can pay for the pack and just counter Kinnan again. Nice from the opponent, but he still needs to pay for the pack. I want to cast Necro, but we will be spending all of our black mana, so I think not. Let's just cast Confounding instead. Nice rotation, we basically gain 8 cards. We'll just use Earthite to remove Kinnan here. Pays for the pack upkeep, and we're hitting for 6 next turn. And we still have Wash Away. Same strategy with Kinnan, but we want to be careful of her enchantment as they can target our clocks. So as much as I love RUSKO, the clocks will be our first priority to protect. Awkward mana base. I want to mull here, but we have Swan Song and Consider here, so I think I'm gonna quit. Nice, we draw a land. That's a good draw. We want to counter Sythis as much as possible because removing her is a bit tricky. This is a green and white deck. They also have protection spells here, so countering her is the safest route. Nothing we can do about that. She plays first, so basically we're behind tempo. Let's dig for more cards and fill our graveyard so we can use. Let's dig for more cards and fill our graveyard so we can use Treasure Cruise. This is so bad. We have no lands. I think we're going to lose. No way we will not counter this. Opponent is just casting threat after threat. Wow! We have to kill that enchanted bird. We need to take a gamble with Necropotence here. Not gonna lie, it's going to chip away my life points, but we need this. We need to draw Ritual of Suit here because Sythis is coming and she's going to refill her hand with more threats. Time for RUSKO here and just hope for the best. We don't have any counters to protect RUSKO or our clock, so we're just going to pray we survive next turn. Thoughts is to check, and there is a borrowed time. We're losing anyway with this hand, so let's just Necropotence once more. Look at her go. This is the power of Sythis. Allow her long enough on the battlefield and she refills her hand. This is the power of Displacer Kitten. Whenever we cast at least a 1-mana non-creature spells, we get a clock back, so we can at least chain more spells with that clock. This is the power of Displacer Kitten. Whenever we cast at least a 1-mana non-creature spells, we get a clock back, so we can at least chain more spells with that clock. Brutality is nice here. We can kill one of his creature and escalate into 3 modes and gain a life back. didn't hit anything, but at least we are now aware of what the opponent has in hand. This is pushing it, but we're not going to win without Ritual of Suit or Time Warp here, so we must dig. Believe in the life gain of RUSKO. We have spells at the ready here. We have cut down, then we can generate a clock, then we can counter something or cyclonic rip something. We are still alive, ladies and gentlemen. Let's just allow that. As Pet conquers death will be our main counter target here. We don't want them to get rid of our cat or RUSKO. Let's use our cut down here, even if he's going to draw 2 here. Still alive, but look at her go. Don't worry guys, I think we're going to win next turn. We're going to Cyclonic Rift everything away before my clock pops off. Look at these clocks. Look at it. A sight to behold. Time to wipe her board, even if her enchantments have Shroud. She even joined her permanents. GG. Now, this is an easy matchup if you know what to counter. My mistake on my previous experience with her is overprotecting RUSKO. What you really want here is to not let Atraxa enter the battlefield and just let RUSKO die or Arclux. The opponent is going to spend 2 cards for RUSKO anyway, so she will be depleting her hand. We're just going to the rest here. And we see a mana rock. We will get that. Discarding her ramp or ways to deal with the clock will be the top priority for our discards here. The coast is clear, so we will cast RUSKO here. An early RUSKO means we get to revolve our clocks faster. Just straight up time warp here. We don't need to wait. We want to gain as much tempo as possible. Otz is here. Let's just take a look at his hand. Get airtie and opponent is in bad shape. She drew heavy costed cards. We're just going to ignore that. You always want to cast solve the equation when the clock is on the 11th. This way, it will hit 12. You can search for time warp on your library always. As you can see, the time warp is there. We used time warp earlier if you remember. Just remove boring flex here and we're going to time warp once again. And this will be over. We're just going through the motion and I believe this is over. We attack and we just cast any non-creature spell and that is game. Not gonna lie, Raffine is probably one of the hardest matches versus RUSKO. He has discard, he has cheap counter spells, and he also has ways to deal with our clock while maintaining pressure in the sky. This is a bad hand. We're going to mull here. We have Dig Through Time and Treasure Cruise here. Not suited for an early game. This is much better. We have Tail's End and Ritual of Suit counter early aggro. Okay, we have to deal with that first before we can cast RUSKO. Now we're going to counter that. We don't want him rummaging through his deck. Liliana. This is bad for us. Let's see if we can find a counter here. No luck, we're going to endure it for now.
Nobody knows Dominaria's shadows like me. We all have things we'd rather forget.
It's tempting to cast RUSKO here, but he has one blue open mana. He might have Wash Away here, so let's wait for another turn so we can use Miscast.
You won't be outsmarting me.
Let's bait out a counter spell here. If he does not, then we can draw 3 here. By doing this, I want him to commit to the board so I can use my Recall of Suit.
I'm tired of your secrets.
What a funky build from the opponent. I think he's going for Cavern or 1 mana removal here. We're going to attack Liliana with our land before she can ulti. We also have Spell Pierce and Miscast to protect the land. Let's try. We don't want Liliana to use her ulti. As expected, with this we have delayed Liliana.
You know, I think you look better as a corpse.
This is a funky build from the opponent, very far from the Raffine that I have experienced. I'm still confident we can win this, we just have to be patient here.
You won't be outsmarting me.
We need to cut down this first before we can cast RUSKO. With this, we still have our counter spell for Raffine.
Think fast. Don't worry, I'll think of something.
Ah, one of your friends has to leave.
Let's just recast RUSKO. The coast is clear, so nothing to worry about. Eventually, our clocks will pop off and we can win this game.
Time to improvise. I do love a good puzzle.
Let's just counter this because the opponent will use Liliana to make me sacrifice again, so I can't cast RUSKO and Recall Suit at the same time, and the opponent explodes.